I've run my design business for 10 years, and I worked with some dream clients that 23-year-old me who first got started would have been absolutely thrilled about. But I've done this without posting every single day or even being consistent with my marketing some of the time. When you run a business, marketing is a huge part of what we do, and I totally get if it doesn't feel like what you actually signed up for. Instead of getting paralyzed by this idea of a perfect schedule and getting totally overwhelmed, let's create a plan that feels really doable with a type of content creation that you can actually enjoy. To make this a little bit simpler, I'm going to go through 3 different strategies that have all worked for me at different stages of my business so that you can pick one out that sounds best to you. I'm going to put timestamps down in the description with each of these so you can jump ahead, or if you want to, you might want to watch through all of them and see which one sounds best to you. I'm also going to do a Q&A at the very end with questions that you've sent in so that I can cover some of the most common marketing questions. So before we dig in, I want to mention one thing that has really changed how I see social media. And that is that you have relationship-based platforms and you have volume-based platforms. What I mean is that some platforms like Pinterest or LinkedIn or even blog posts are great for getting a lot of eyes on your work, while you have other platforms like creating video content on Instagram or YouTube or creating newsletters as a way to really build that ongoing relationship where they feel like they get to know you and they start really trusting your actual opinions. To create a truly successful marketing strategy, I think you should pick one relationship-focused one and one volume-focused one. When you do this, you really get the best of both worlds. On the one hand, you get lots of eyes on your work and on your content, and on the other hand, you start building that long-term relationship that's going to work and translate into clients long-term. This first strategy is for anyone who doesn't have a lot of work to show off. Maybe you're a new business or maybe you're switching into a new niche, for example. Here, we really want to show off that we have the skills and the expertise even if we don't have the experience yet. A great way to do this is to share your own personal approach to design. This shows all the work that you put in, and it also shows that your process is something that they can rely on. So for example, you can make a YouTube video or you can make an Instagram reel, for example, where you show them the different stages, like from ideas, research, sketching, coming up with a final design and placing it on a mock-up at the end. If you're comfortable showing your face, even if you're not talking directly to camera, you can show your hands or you working. That really does help build a lot of trust, because I'm sure you feel the same way as people you watch on YouTube. You just feel closer to them than if you would just read a blog post, for example. You can then take these designs that you've created or different snapshots from your videos. And you can put together graphics that you can post on a volume-based platform. So you can either do like Pinterest posts or write a blog on LinkedIn, for example. You can even use them for case studies on your website. And this is going to save you tons of time because you're really repurposing content, so you don't have to keep recreating everything. Building an audience and doing marketing in general takes a lot of time. So I really suggest, for your mental health and also for good results, to try to focus on like monthly progress or quarterly progress rather than focusing on how each single individual post is doing. This way you can start to spot trends and you can see the type of posts that are doing really well and which ones are maybe not doing as well. This can be down to thumbnails, to the content, to anything really. So try to start analyzing what's the common ground between the ones that are doing really well. It's important to not get stuck in that first stage of trying to make it perfect, but try to start somewhere and then just make each post a little bit better. Like, for example, when I started my YouTube channel, I was not great at it. I was not very comfortable in front of the camera, and I didn't have any good equipment. So each time I tried to see, okay, can I make my intro better? Can I make the audio a little bit better? All these different things that compound together to make your content great after a while. But you can't really get there without doing those experiments. A great way to speed up this approach and make sure you get some good results early is to create series rather than single posts. When someone new sees your posts and they go to your profile and notice that a lot of your content has a similar vibe, that might be a great reason for them to follow. But if everything is kind of all over the place, that makes it a little bit more tricky for them. And this is even more true if you have a very specific niche. For example, you can create a series where you do quick breakdowns of famous brands and talk about why they work. Or you can do a series where you show different sketches and how you pick out the best one. You can basically come up with any type of series that you think would be interesting for your target audience, and then create different parts that are just variations of that idea. Really try to go with your personality here, because it does shine through and it impacts who wants to watch your content. For example, I'm quite a calm person with a bit of a silly side, so I try to really focus on actionable tips, things that I know help, and just getting through that in a way that works with my personality. But maybe you're a person who's a bit more like rambunctious or high energy, or maybe you love banter, and maybe that's the people that you want to work with. It is kind of a genius way to niche down in a way, because the people who tend to really enjoy our content are usually really great for us to work with, because this will be a really great dynamic. So it's kind of a good way of filtering or niching down just by using your personality in your content. And don't worry if it feels unnatural at first. It will come with time. So to summarize, approach 1 is to show your process and create content on a relationship building platform that is really focused on explaining and showing that you know what you're talking about. And then you can repurpose that into a volume-based platform like Pinterest post or a blog post, for example. Approach number 2 is for all of you out there who do not like to create video content. I have actually fallen in love with it, even though I didn't used to like it, so things can change if you feel hesitant. But I want to include one that has worked really well for us that has nothing to do with video content. One of the most powerful ways to bring that long-term relationship with clients is through a newsletter. For newsletters to be really effective, there has to be a reason, something that pulls someone in to open each of them, not just the very first one where maybe you get a freebie or some sort of lead magnet. If you subscribe to our newsletter, you might have seen that we offer a free guide or a free template every 2 weeks. And we have an opening rate of about 50%, which is well above average. And that's because anyone who subscribes knows that they're going to get something that they're super interested in every single email that we send out. If you're really focusing on that helpful content, not just focusing on being very salesy or making it all about you, you can really start to build that relationship and build a really dedicated following. To get people to sign up to your newsletter, this is where that volume-based platform comes in. So you can use things like Pinterest posts to link to different blog content or case studies that you've done. And once they actually land on your website, then you can encourage them, once they've seen that you're a great artist, a great designer, then you can encourage them to sign up to your newsletter with something like a lead magnet. So a lead magnet is something that they would get as a value as soon as they sign up, like a template or a guide or some advice or something like that. So for approach 2, you're creating valuable content in terms of blog posts or case studies on your website. You're then using the volume-based platform to link back to these. And that is going to get eyes on your website so that you can then encourage people to join your newsletter, where they will have that relationship building platform. You offer a ton of value, and then you sprinkle in different ways to work with you or different offers now and then. And finally, for approach 3, we're going to talk about meeting people in person. I really cannot overstate how important this was for my business in the very early days. So the first 3 clients that Jeremy and I got were actually from 2 separate networking events. So the important thing here is that we want to find events where your customers and your audience are, not just go to networking events for other creatives, although that can be great for mental health and inspiration and all that stuff. But specifically for sales, we really want to find events that are, in my experience, not too big, where everyone's just kind of handing out their business card, but where you more can maybe do a workshop together or have conversations in a bit more in depth. For me, because I work with sustainability-focused clients, that was a social enterprise event and one about B Corps and sustainability. Find 1 or maybe 2 people that you feel there's a real connection with, either someone you can learn from to learn more about the industry, or someone that could become a potential client, and then try to get their phone number or their email so you can book in a coffee just to have a bit more in-depth conversations outside of this kind of chaotic networking event atmosphere. To make sure you get the most from these meetings, really focus your website on showing case studies, showing your process, all these different things, so that once they actually land there, that's basically your marketing and sales funnel. That you get these people who are interested, they see your work, and they say, great, I have all the different boxes ticked, let's work together. And a little PSA on this, make it easy to contact you, because I cannot tell you the number of websites where I've wanted to contact someone and they have not made it easy. So add contact buttons in the nav everywhere. So knowing about these 3 approaches, I want to dive into the questions that you asked in our community tab. The first one is a great question about how to create content without having expensive equipment or like the newest fancy phone, which I really don't. I love this question because I have done so much experimentation with really subpar equipment, and I think some really helpful tips can really elevate the content. For video content, you really want to focus on having a lot of natural lighting and trying to make the audio as good as possible by not making it too echoey. So how can we do that? So for the natural lighting, try to find a room that has a window that gets a lot more natural light. Don't sit right in front of the window because that will be really harsh, but sit a little bit away, have it come from the side on your face, I have found that to be the best approach. You can add some supporting lights, like I've got some from the sides coming here, but experiment with it, take some different videos and see which ones are actually looking the best in your specific environment. For the same reason, don't shoot outside. Sunlight tends to get really, really harsh, or you get kind of uneven, discolored lighting sometimes. So trying to find an environment that you can control a bit more so that your content also looks more consistent. When it comes to good audio, if you think about it, sound kind of bounces off the different surfaces. So when you get a really echoey sound, that tends to be because you don't have a lot of very soft furnishings and you have a lot of sharp corners. So what you can do to mitigate that is you can try to have a lot more rugs, pillows, curtains in a room. And if you don't want to invest in those things, if that's something you don't already have, you can even bring like blankets and things like that to put in the room while you're filming, and you can just put it back afterwards. No one has to see it in the video. If you do want to invest a little bit in audio, it can make a huge difference, and I really recommend a clip-on mic like this one, because if I move into different parts of the room, the audio will still sound as good. It's not dependent on how close I am to my phone or my camera. And they typically pair both with phones and camera, so you don't have to get any new equipment. This one's the Rode mic, and I absolutely love it. I've been using it the last few months, and I hope that you've noticed the sound being nice and cozy and not too sharp. Finally, for video, you need to edit your footage, and I really want to emphasize this because I do lots of retakes. Scripting is also really important. I have even scripted this part. So basically what we want to do is we want to make sure that the pacing of the video is really good. So if we make a mistake or we feel like we keep repeating a point, make sure to cut it out. You can also do color correcting. You can work on the exposure for the lighting if you tend to work in a gloomy environment like I do. I'm in Sweden. Or you can also do things like work with the audio to try to fix it a little bit if you don't have the best equipment. There are so many free tutorials online on how to do this, and there are lots of different tools. Personally, I use Premiere Pro because we already have an Adobe subscription, but I know that a lot of people like CapCut or other tools like that, so do a little bit of research and find one that you enjoy. I've even heard that the Instagram editor has become a lot better, so experiment your way through it. The next tip is about how to create content specifically for your target audience and how to name your content. My best tip here is to really try to understand your audience, to immerse yourself in the world that they're in. You can attend events and ask tons of questions. You can join forums that they're on. Try to really understand the questions and frustrations that they have day to day with design specifically, if that's what you do. When we have this, we can make incredibly specific tips and videos and things like that where we address those questions that we know that they have. Since most people who are not designers are not super aware of terms like tracking or white space, try to really cut away the jargon and really get to the kind of purpose of a certain design decision. That will be a lot more engaging and it won't alienate your clients. For naming, we want to try to do something that will tease at what the topic is going to be, but is not too descriptive. I'm kind of bad at this. I really want the video title to be super clear on what it is, but I know that for YouTube specifically, you really shouldn't be making the title too obvious. For example, you could do something like, "This tip has changed how I design." And that would be a great video title. And then you really want to make sure that you're following that up with, of course, really helpful content that does reflect what you have promised. If you want your content to live a little bit longer online, so then you want to focus on the SEO portion. So you can do a little bit of SEO research to look at which keywords are doing best on YouTube, for example, or on Instagram. And the final question, which is a massive one, is about consistency. First off, I want to say that your mental health and you taking holidays now and then is more important than posting super consistently. The reason that we talk about consistency is because if you post a few times and then you go away for months, people might not have you top of mind. So of course, the more we post, as long as it's quality content, the more chances we have to be viewed. But I really do want to emphasize that quality is a lot more important than quantity. However, when you're starting out, the only way to get to quality is through quantity. So keep learning, experimenting, and try to do it in a way that feels okay for you. To actually be consistent, I suggest sticking to very few platforms. So we've talked about using two, one volume, one relationship building one. And then also to create content pillars and to create batches of your content and schedule it out. Let's break that down. So which platforms you end up using is really up to your own preferences, like which platforms do you enjoy using? Which ones do you understand the culture of? But also, of course, where's your target audience and what type of content do you want to create? Do you want to write? Do you want to film? Do you want to have live conversations, for example, or live coaching? There are so many different options. For content pillars, you can pick 3 to 5 different topics, like let's say behind the scenes, case studies, or talking about why a specific design works. And then you can then go in and be a little bit more granular and create a list of different exact topics that you can do from that. You can plan out your content for the next 2 weeks or a month ahead, for example, write it in on your different content pillars in your schedule, and then you can film everything at once or design everything at once in a few days and then schedule everything. I will say that even though each platform has their own tool to schedule, not all of them are perfect and there are certain limitations. If you have a great one that you love, you can always leave a comment because I'm still looking for one that I really have fallen in love with. So for example, if you're using Meta to schedule your posts for Facebook and Instagram, if you're doing stories, you can't add stickers currently. So there are certain limitations, but even if you're scheduling some of it and you have all of the other ones ready to just click publish, save as drafts, for example, on your phone, that still saves so much more time than having to come up with things in the moment. This video was actually part 4 of a whole series about creating your own design studio. So if there are other parts that you're interested in, like how to decide who your target audience is or how to set up your portfolio, I'm gonna link a playlist here that you can watch next. Super good luck with all your marketing. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.